What is up, bros? Josh here. Today's video is going to be a pretty quick one and focused all around the second hotfix of just shit World of Warships, which I'm excited about. And so I want to kind of do this almost like a series, just keep you guys up to date with all the big changes that hit World of Warships, so you can kind of have one spot to go and just get all the information, all the links and everything, and just kind of keep you up to date. So the second hotfix just hit World of Warships. It's not as big as the first one, as you saw a few days back. I did a video on that one, but it's a good sign that wargaming in World of Warships is getting good information and fast information and making lots of changes. So we can be very optimistic about the whole CV rework. And honestly, after this, I'm excited to see what we have. Obviously, I'm spamming lots of ranked battles right now on my stream, but I'm excited to get into the regular rank or random battles and kind of play some of the new test ships or the new versions of the work in progress ships and the new CVs. So this is live currently on NA, probably EU tomorrow. But some of the main things like that, well, basically they're really only fine tuning a lot of stuff right now. So as you see in the first hotfix, which we won't go over a lot, I'll put the link down below. You can check them out, and I'll put a link down below to my video on that. There was a lot of stuff in the first hotfix, and now they're hitting us with the second hotfix, which is kind of fine tuning what they did. Honestly, after the first hotfix, the game itself was in a much better spot than when the 8.0 hit. So really, they're just kind of fine tuning some stuff, and that's what this hotfix is going. So most of you probably won't even realize or notice a lot of changes when it comes to this. But obviously, the first hotfix kind of overtuned AA, especially in high tiers. Tier 8 CVs going into Tier 10 CVs was a bit of a problem, but they fixed the bug that resulted in a huge damage spike for AA explosions at Tier 8. So apparently there was a little bit of a bug there. They fine-tuned that, and then adjusted the damage progression of AA explosions on all tiers. So they're fine-tuning. They overtuned AA a tad. You could have like a Minotaur and it would literally obliterate everything. Still, full AA boats kind of feel like full AA boats now. It's a lot less RNG and a bit more like it just feels consistent because of how they changed up DPS on AA from kind of the RNG of the flak damage more to a passive, so that feels pretty good, and resolves some issues with continuous DPS calculations. As a result, continuous DPS was adjusted within 5%, so they were pretty close, but they're adjusting some ships throughout, probably focusing on certain ships. There were some that were overperforming for AA, some that were underperforming, so everything kind of is getting balanced out. And that's kind of it with this hotfix. There's not really too much. They're just getting in fine-tuning, and really the game we're kind of seeing going forward is probably the game we're going to see in the near future. Obviously, we have the flooding changes coming up, radar changes coming up, so that will definitely affect the game a little bit as well. But the big CV rework is actually getting fine-tuned and smoothed out pretty quickly with these two hotfixes in less than a week. So that's really, really good. Also, some changes to the work in progress ships. Now, we've been playing these on stream as well. And you had the VU, the Tier 5, now Tier 5 battleship, the Exeter, the Tier 5 cruiser for the Royal Navy, and the Yahagi, Tier 5 cruiser for IGN, and then now the announced steel ship, the whatever I call it, the Nostradamus, the Nosferatu. So these changes are pretty big for these ships. The Sigma for the VU has been decreased from 1.8 to 1.65. They changed the repair party, so the repair isn't as good, and restoration hit points and receiving damage to Citadel increased from 10% to 33%. So this is something, whenever they change the Sigma, that's basically the consistency of its shells and accuracy of its shells, well, accuracy, but the consistency of them. So this is something that is going to be, I'm just going to have to play it. Whenever Sigma gets to that kind of level, it gets very inconsistent. When the consistency gets inconsistent, it's inconsistent. Yeah, that makes sense to me, Josh. But when the Sigma gets that low, you start to get a little kind of maddening shell-wise. So what this ship has, it was kind of like the Nikolai. It kind of was like the Julius Caesar, that it was really accurate for its tier. It got bumped up to Tier 5, and now the guns are getting nerfed at Tier 5. So this ship may have had just a big nerf to it, and kind of what was... It was overpowered already, but it felt a bit more balanced at Tier 5. With this nerf, it could have just kind of nerfed it into the ground, and you'll kind of get maybe an October Revolution feel on its guns, and with a better heal. So we're going to have to feel that one out. To me, it's just kind of meh. okay, got nerfed pretty hard. It may just be kind of a normal tier 5 battleship, and then instead of being something that people are going to want to get, it's going to potentially turn into something that if you get it, you get it kind of thing. So we will see on that one. That one we have to feel out. Now, one of the biggest ones I'm bummed out about is the Exeter, the tier 5 Royal Navy cruiser. Now, this one felt like a tier 6 cruiser in a tier 5 body. It was a tier 5 Royal Navy cruiser with 203s, so very big caliber shell at this tier, and had smoke, had HE, had heal. So to me, this just screamed being a tier 6. And Wargaming said, hey, instead of making it tier 6, we're going to make it a tier 5 still. And we're going to give it a longer reload from 12 seconds to 15 seconds. And they're going to remove the smoke. So this one, I got completely bummed out when I saw this, completely confused, because they could have easily thrown this into tier 6. At tier 6, we have the Graf Spee, which is a big 203 caliber cruiser, and we have the Leander. This is basically a baby of those two ships. So you have kind of this bigger, tanky cruiser, almost battle cruiser like, long reload, but big shells with smoke. You kind of have that. Just give it a little bit more health and throw it into tier 6, and I think it'll be fine. They want to keep it at tier 5 for some reason. I feel like tier 5 203s is pretty nasty, and obviously it was a tad too strong. But now without smoke, you're a Royal Navy cruiser rolling without smoke. The thing it's getting compared to is a Furitaka with a heal, but the Furitaka has better plating, so it bounces a lot more shells. I'm not sure how I like this ship being tier 5 still without smoke. That kind of gave it its identity. It's Royal Navy cruiser. Now it's a Royal Navy cruiser that isn't really a Royal Navy cruiser. It's more like a Graf Spee or something like that. So we're gonna have to kind of feel this one out too. Instantly though, Exeter went from like basically a must-buy fun ship for me to now potentially not worth it. Its DPM is low because it got 3 seconds added to its reload time, and it has no smoke, so it kind of loses the identity of the entire line. So we're gonna have to see about that. Apparently this is potentially going to be a free ship through somebody told me on the PTS this might be a free ship going forward, so that might be kind of cool, but we're going to have to feel this one out too. Yahagi at tier 5. I still don't know what the hell is going on with this ship. It's basically a destroyer with the Citadel. Its main battery reload reduced from 10 seconds to 9 seconds. This still is a piece of hunk of shit to me, and I feel like they're going to have to give this away for free. I see no point in this cruiser. It has terrible torp arcs. It has mediocre guns, and it just gets obliterated. It's supposed to be like a torp-focused cruiser, but I would rather just bring something that can't get Citadel as a DD, especially at tier 5. There's a lot of good destroyers at that tier. Soviet destroyer, so only seeing a 1 second change for this, it makes no sense to me. It needs a lot more love than this. It needs better torp arcs. We'll have to see that one too. Still not excited about that. See no point in that ship. The Soviet destroyer Nosferatu, the tier 9. Now this was announced being for steel. Now we can only assume it's going to be around the same price as the USS Black, so between 13 and 14,000 steel. That's what we have to kind of go off of. Might be even more like 15,000 because it's kind of a beefier destroyer. So it's getting changed to parameters. Now, this is kind of interesting. I originally, a few days ago, tweeted out that there's no way in hell this ship was worth it. It's kind of a middle of the ground, mediocre kind of torp boat that can kind of defend itself. And in no way is it worth the steel unless you just have extra steel laying around. Well, they changed the repair consumable. So this is really interesting. The restoration damage is increased from 50% to 60%. Duration of the heal is longer, and healing 2% instead of 5%. So this is more going to be like Royal Navy cruiser. So this thing's effective health pool is potentially massive. So this is something that may end up being worth steel now. It's different, but it has this big crazy heal that is kind of like rolling, as it says right there, British cruisers on the high tiers. So just repairing potentially 4, 5, 6K on a destroyer every heal. That will give you a lot to kind of work with, and kind of if you go into a fight and get into a fight, take a bunch of damage because you just only have, remember, the 2 sets of 2 on this on your turrets, but you are kind of focused on a torp boat. If you take extra damage, you should be all right. So this is something that I'm kind of optimistic. This is really the only repair, or the only kind of positive in my opinion of all these changes. So this thing, but still, may still be worth, I don't know. This one's going to take a little while because with a torp boat, you're giving a torp boat like a bunch of heals, and So you're going to need to be more aggressive with torpo to get use out of those. Is it worth it in the end? I don't know. I'm going to have to play it. But a bunch of changes coming to the game. I just want to keep you guys up to date with these. So again, nerf for the VU, the tier 5 German battleship. Nerf for the Exeter, tier 5 cruiser. Buff for the Yahagi, still a worthless tier 5 cruiser. And then the news at tier 9, the now announced steel ship is getting an interesting buff that doesn't quite match its playstyle, but it's something I'm going to need to get my hands on and feel how it kind of plays. Could potentially be worth steel in the end. So, interested to check these out on stream whenever I get the new versions. We will be doing those live. Obviously, these are all work in progress, so things are subject to change, and they could change before they eventually go live. I hope we see some changes to these. But anyways, guys, want to keep you guys up to date with all the updates, new hotfix, new ships, new everything. Again, I'll put a link down below to this update post, as well as my video on 8.0.1. if you are interested in just getting a quick TLDR on that. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Remember, like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.